The Vatican at night does not belong to the living. By day, it gleams, a beacon of marble and gold under the Roman sun, echoing with hymns, the shuffling feet of pilgrims, and the endless murmur of prayer. But when the final bells toll and the heavy doors of St. Peter's Basilica close for the night, the air changes. The stones seem to exhale. The light fades into a velvety blackness, and in that darkness, the Vatican remembers. They say the White Lady first comes with a silence so deep it feels unnatural, as though even the ancient city beyond the walls has been hushed. The guards who walk the grounds speak of it in low voices, a sudden stillness in the Vatican gardens, a pocket of cold air by the bronze doors of the Apostolic Palace, the uncanny sensation of being watched. Then, without warning, she is there. A pale figure, barely more than a shimmer in the moonlight, draped in a gown the color of bleached bone. Her veil hides her face, yet her presence is undeniable. Some say she glides, others swear her feet touch the ground like any living woman's, her steps soft as breath. No one agrees on the details, except for one, the sorrow. You feel it before you see her, an ache that slides into your bones, a grief you cannot name, as if you've just lost someone you loved, but can't remember who. The earliest written mention comes from a guard's log in 1638. A young Swiss guard, Matthias Kruger, recorded seeing a nun in white walking through the Cortile di San Damaso long after curfew. Thinking she was lost, he approached, but she turned and vanished before his eyes, leaving only the scent of lilies behind. The next morning, the Vatican awoke to grim news. A prominent cardinal had died in his sleep. Since then, the White Lady's appearances have been tied, curiously, to moments of upheaval, papal deaths, political scandals, even whispers of assassination attempts. No one knows whether she comes to warn, to mourn, or simply to witness. Some dismiss the legend as a trick of light, or the product of weary minds in a place steeped in superstition. But those who have seen her never forget. They speak of her with an unease that lingers, as though her gaze had followed them long after she was gone. Answer: in the heart of the holiest city on earth, among relics of saints and echoes of centuries, a question hangs in the night air. Is she a guardian? A prisoner? Or a curse in white silk? The Vatican will not say. But the stones know. The stones have seen her walk. Every ghost is a story that refused to end. And in the case of the White Lady, her story began not in moonlight and shadow, but in the blinding, gilded halls of power. Her name, at least the one whispered in Vatican archives, was Sister Isabella di Rossi. Born into a noble Roman family in the late 16th century, she was sent to the convent at a young age, not for piety, but for politics. Her family had debts, enemies, and secrets, and in the Vatican, a woman like Isabella could be hidden away as easily as locked treasure. But Isabella did not fade quietly into the stone walls of the cloister. She was clever, educated, and, by all accounts, possessed a beauty that could stir even the most disciplined heart. Among those who noticed was a cardinal with influence beyond Rome, a man who dressed in crimson robes and carried the weight of both political ambition and dangerous desire. The affair began in whispers, a passing glance in the basilica, a folded letter left on a lectern, meetings under the cover of night in the Vatican gardens. Those who have searched the archives claim to have found fragments of their correspondence, letters not of lust, but of longing. The cardinal promised her freedom. She promised him loyalty, but promises made in the Vatican have a way of being broken. When their secret was discovered, the punishment was swift and merciless. The cardinal's influence spared his life but not his conscience. Isabella, however, faced the full weight of the church's wrath. Accused of tempting a man of God into sin, she was confined to a narrow chamber beneath the Apostolic Palace, a room so small she could touch both walls with her hands. There she stayed, weeks turning into months, her only visitors the guards who brought her food and the priest who demanded confession. She refused to confess. She refused to repent. And one cold winter night, she was gone, found lifeless on the stone floor, her white habit soaked in the frost that crept through the walls. The official record says she died of illness. The guards who carried her body whispered another truth, that her eyes were open when they found her, staring at something no one else could see. She was buried without ceremony in the shadow of St. Peter's Basilica. No marker, no prayers, no mourning. But the story did not end there. Within weeks, the first sightings began. A pale figure walking the gardens at night, a nun's veil drifting through darkened corridors, the faint scent of lilies lingering where no flowers grew. And each time she was seen, misfortune seemed to follow, a death, a scandal, a betrayal whispered behind closed doors. To the church, she was gone. To the Vatican stones, she had never left. Ask a Swiss guard about the White Lady, and you'll get one of two reactions: a quick laugh meant to end the conversation, or a silence heavy enough to make you wish you hadn't asked. The truth is, for every guard who dismisses her as a superstition, there is another who has seen her, and will carry that memory to his grave. The most well-known account comes from 1903, the year Pope Leo XIII died. 2 nights before his passing, a guard named Anton Keller was patrolling the Cortile di San Damaso. It was late, the kind of still, humid summer night when even the air feels tired. Anton heard footsteps ahead, soft, measured, almost matching his own pace. When he rounded the corner, he saw her. She was standing in the center of the courtyard, her white gown glowing faintly in the moonlight. The veil concealed her face, but he felt her eyes on him, heavy and searching. She raised a single hand, not in greeting, but in warning, and then turned away. He swore she walked straight into the wall of the Apostolic Palace, dissolving into the stone as if it were mist. 2 days later, the Pope was dead. Another sighting came decades later, during World War II, when Vatican neutrality was a fragile thing. A young clerk, Marco Santini, was working late in the archives. The candle on his desk sputtered, though there was no draft. He looked up and saw her, drifting between the shelves of ancient parchment, her gown brushing the dusty floor without a sound. He froze, terrified, until she stopped beside him, her head tilted slightly, as if she was studying the document in his hands, a diplomatic letter detailing negotiations that could decide the fate of thousands. When he blinked, she was gone. That letter, he later learned, was destroyed before it could ever be acted upon. And then there are the smaller, quieter moments. The scent of lilies in the Sistine Chapel at midnight, a white shadow flickering at the edge of a candlelit mass. The cold touch of unseen fingers brushing the shoulder of a guard before a scandal breaks in the press. For some, these encounters are blessings, a sign the White Lady is watching, guarding, perhaps even trying to protect the church from itself. For others, she is a harbinger, a living memory of betrayal and punishment, ensuring the Vatican never forgets the cost of its sins. Either way, when she walks, something follows. In the Vatican, there are bells for every purpose, bells to mark the hours, to call the faithful to prayer, to announce the death of a pope. But the White Lady rings no bell. She needs none. Her presence alone is enough to mark the turning of fate. The pattern is undeniable to those who study the sightings. She does not drift aimlessly through the Vatican's halls. She appears with intent, calm, deliberate, her steps leading her to those whose lives are about to change. And when she comes, the air shifts, thick and cold, as though the world itself is bracing for what's to come. One of the most striking accounts comes from 1978, the year of 3 popes. Just days before Pope John Paul I was found dead in his bed, a sacristan named Paolo Gaddi claimed to have seen the White Lady kneeling in silent prayer at the base of the Scala Regia, the grand staircase that leads to the Apostolic Palace. She was alone, her veil trailing along the marble steps. Paolo said she did not move as he approached, yet the air around her felt heavy, oppressive, and filled with the faint scent of lilies. When he looked away for only a moment, she was gone. 2 mornings later, the Vatican was draped in black. But her warnings are not reserved for popes. In 1990, Cardinal Bertini, a man known for his political maneuvering, was preparing to deliver a speech that would have shifted power within the Curia. The night before, while reviewing his notes in his study, he heard a soft knock at his door. When he opened it, the corridor was empty, except for the faint, unmistakable image of a white veil retreating into the shadows. Bertini cancelled his speech without explanation. A month later, he resigned. Even in recent years, her presence has not faded. Vatican staff speak of security cameras catching fleeting glimpses, pale shapes where no one is standing, movement along deserted garden paths in the dead of night. And each time, within days, something happens. A scandal, a resignation, a sudden death. It is said she does not bring the calamity herself. She merely arrives before it, like the first crack of thunder before a storm. But the effect is the same. Those who have seen her often speak with a quiet conviction. She is not there for them. She is there for what's coming. And so the guards listen for her in the stillness. The clerks glance over their shoulders in empty rooms. Because when the White Lady walks, it means something in the Vatican is about to fall. The Vatican is a fortress of faith, but it is also a fortress of secrets. Beneath the frescoes and gilded ceilings lies a labyrinth of corridors, hidden chambers, and vaults that hold more than relics. They hold the stories the Church chose not to tell. And somewhere among those sealed records, if you know where to look, are fragments of the White Lady's truth. Archivists speak of a folder in the secret apostolic archive marked only with a single letter, I. It is never included on public inventories. Inside are brittle pages bound in faded red ribbon, their ink smudged, their edges singed as if someone once tried to burn them. The letters are signed by Isabella di Rossi, written in a hand both elegant and unyielding. In him, she speaks not of sin, but of corruption. She names cardinals who embezzled alms meant for the poor, bishops who traded blessings for favors, and deals brokered in candlelit chambers where holy vows were nothing but currency. She writes of the man she loved, the cardinal who had promised to free her, and how he betrayed that promise to preserve his own life. But most damning of all is her final letter, a chilling account of the night before her death. In it, she claims she was not ill, as the official record insists. She writes of a priest sent to her cell, his voice low, carrying orders she did not fully understand until he placed the cup in her hands. A bitter wine, he called it, meant to ease her suffering. She knew it for what it was, poison masked in sacrament. The letter ends abruptly, the ink blotted as if the quill slipped from her grasp. Some believe this is why she cannot leave. Her death was not the will of God but the will of men, and the Church has never confessed it. Her spirit walks not to haunt the innocent, but to remind the guilty, and perhaps to wait for the truth to be spoken aloud. There are whispers of even deeper secrets. A hidden chapel beneath the Vatican gardens where her body was reburied in secrecy. A silver rosary found there during renovations, its chain broken, one bead missing. And carved into the stone behind the altar, a faint, nearly erased inscription in Latin. I forgive, but I will not forget. Whether the White Lady carved it herself, or whether it was placed there in her memory, no one can say. But those who have stood before it swear they felt the air grow cold, and the faintest scent of lilies drift through the darkness. For centuries, the White Lady has walked the Vatican's marble corridors, her veil trailing through candlelit chapels and shadowed gardens. Some believe she lingers because she seeks justice, others say she walks because the truth was buried with her, and until it rises, she cannot rest. But there are those, fewer and quieter, who whisper a darker possibility, that she does not want to leave. In the late autumn of 2013, a Swiss guard named Luca Moretti was stationed at the Porta Sant'Anna. The air was crisp, the city beyond the walls muffled under a light rain. At exactly 3 in the morning, he saw her, standing at the edge of the Vatican gardens, facing away from him. She moved slowly, her gown brushing the wet cobblestones, until she reached the bronze doors of the Apostolic Palace. There, she stopped, turned her head slightly, as though aware of his watch, and vanished. The following day, a scandal broke involving a high-ranking official, his sudden resignation framed as voluntary. But Luca could not shake the memory of that final glance. It hadn't felt like sorrow or warning. It had felt satisfied. There is an unsettling pattern in certain sightings, those that follow not only disasters but reckonings, moments when the guilty are unmasked. In those cases, witnesses claim her presence feels different, lighter, almost triumphant. If that is true, then the White Lady is not only a herald of tragedy but an arbiter, appearing when debts are about to be paid. And yet, for all the speculation, no one has been able to lay her to rest. Priests have blessed the gardens, exorcisms have been whispered in secret, masses have been offered in her name. Still, she walks. Still, the lilies bloom where she passes. Perhaps she is waiting for someone to speak the truth aloud, to give her name the justice it was denied. Or perhaps she has chosen her eternity, weaving herself into the fabric of the Vatican's nights, so the Church will never forget what it did in its hunger for power. For those who believe in mercy, the thought is comforting, that one day, the bells will toll, the lilies will fade, and the White Lady will step beyond the gates, free at last. But for those who believe in vengeance, the Vatican's silence is not her prison. It is her throne. And when the halls grow still, when the scent of lilies drifts on the cold night air, they know, she is walking again. Thank you for hanging around until the end of our tale. Every view is appreciated. If you have enjoyed it, please hit that like button and considering commenting and subscribing.